Everyone's doing something else right now. But I saw a few videos online that, well, talk about footwork and how some people, do line of attack if you're actually, in a tournament or whatever. Which certain techniques work for certain people, and that's fine. But the one thing you always want to do, and this is from what I was taught just from taking fencing and some Japanese style swordsmanship, is you want to keep your body stable as much as possible. So if you're, let me put this down. If you're sitting here doing this, rocking your body back and forth, you're not very stable. You're not keeping yourself stable, which is not a good thing. When I took fencing, and I have one of our fencing foils here, we used to have a guy who did that, and he would, when he got in position, he would rock back and forth, and he would kind of like bounce his blade around. So what I would try and do when I came up to duel with him, he'd be sitting there doing this. So what I would do is at the time there was no limit how low you can get your body. So you could get pretty low. So I would come in with my blade and push up on his. Because it wasn't trying to get a point so much, but if you're rocking, so when he went back, I would come in and push on his blade. And push on him, because if he steps out of the line, he loses a point, I get a point, so it's an easy point win. And which goes into another aspect. We all cut. When we cut straight on, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But always going straight on, it gets you complacent. In the aspect of, that's how you want to do an attack. Like in fencing and kendo, and probably some other martial arts, it forces you to go after your opponent head on. Like fencing, it forces you to, no matter what, move in a straight line right at your opponent, which can be risky. That's why people say that I control my blade very well. Well, part of it's due to when I took fencing. Because when you take fencing, you want control of that blade. You don't want way over here. Don't want way over here. So you want to be able to get it on your opponent as quickly as possible. Especially since you just are using the tip. That's it. Because something like this, a slap, doesn't count. So you want to be quick and keep it in motion as much as possible. Whereas, and then we have European martial arts and Asian. We don't go head on all the time. So you step to the side to get out of the way. Or if you are squared up, you would turn your body and block. So I try to change things up if I can. So at the end of this video, what I've done is, instead of cutting, straight on, I turn and cut. What it's going to do is it's going to teach you it teaches you how to move your body so you're out of the way of the target, and cut at the same time. and to see while you're cutting if you still have good edge alignment. The other thing it's going to teach you is when you do move your body, is it stable? Because that's why you bend the knees. And it's in all martial arts, you bend the knees because you're stabilizing your body. But if your legs are too far apart, like if I'm like this, my legs are really spread apart, I'm not stable. So it teaches you a lot of things. See if your leg placement's where it should be. Your motion of your cut, where it's at. So it teaches a lot of things. And it's like, because trying to find schools that are available online is actually kind of hard to do, or in your area especially. Online's not as hard, but it's like online, are what they teaching you like a move that you could use, or is it fantasy? So the best way to do it is execute it. Try it. Unfortunately, I don't have a person I can try things with, and that's a downfall to practicing the Aido. You don't have an opponent, you have an imaginary opponent. But even though these two styles are different, your body mechanics will always be the same in how you move. Now, granted, using this right here, or European sword, you're stepping to the side. You're never going straight forward like you do with this. And you also hold it differently. If you see, the grip on this is way different. But because of that, you're really able to use that wrist, because the way it sits, this sits right in there. So fencing is a very quick movement, but that's what you want. Same with, though, if you're using European or Asian style weapon, you want your movements to be as quick as possible. Now, I don't have a lot of room in here, so obviously this weighs a lot more than that. So I thought this would be a fun little video to put out and see how many will actually change up the way they cut. Try and jump off to the side and cut instead of cutting straight on, and see how your edge alignment is. Like I said, at the end of this video, I'll have some cutting where I do that. I go from right to left, and then I do some cutting straight on, so you can see the differences. And surprisingly, there was no difference. Once you have the feel for the sword, doesn't matter what it is, and you've practiced enough cutting, it should just come natural to you. 100%. Now, weight factor does play into it. Did use this sword for all the cutting. This is my new hero sword. This thing is extremely nimble. And then on top of it, the back, the way they designed it, makes it an excellent cutter as well, too. So that's why I use this one. But it is a, different perspective on it. Instead of like the traditional way we see cutting on YouTube, just straight on, very little do we see people actually change their body movements when they cut. Or they'll do really big swoops, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong doing really big swoops, but if you want to cut and do a fast recovery to cut again, doing this big swoop is going to be hard to come back and cut again, because it takes more time. And you can lose your stability on your cut. Like your edge alignment could be way off because you're trying to recover so fast. So, food for thought. But I hope everyone liked this one. It's a little bit different perspective on things. But yeah, thought I'd pull out the old fencing sword. Good to see I can still move it pretty fast. And yeah, if you have a fencing school in your area, I highly recommend you take it, even though it's a totally different perspective from using one of these. It teaches you fast movements. I mean, super, super fast movements. So, and that's another thing I'll just say too, if you do duel with other people, watch your opponents before you come up to them. If they're in another bout, another duel, how they move their body. Like I said, the guy that we had in fencing would rock and hold his blade like that, so I could kick it up like this towards him, which is going to force him back. So if I got him out of our perimeter, I was able to score. It didn't take much for me to do it instead of straight on. So, and yes, believe it or not, you bout for an hour with one of these, it feels the weight of these after that, even though these are super light. But that's all I have for you guys now, and I will see you all later.